we need to talk about Elon Musk. Again, I hope you appreciated the small break of 1 week with no Elon Musk news that I gave you last week, but it looks like the guy's actually gonna own Twitter. And that's a big deal. So this is gonna be the main news of this week's episode of This Week in Tech. Elon Musk is buying Twitter. Now, there's a lot of things that we could say about this new crazy acquisition, but I want to focus on what is my area of expertise, which is artificial intelligence. And there are some pretty important AI news related to this decision of Elon Musk and of the Twitter's board, which is the fact that he wants to open source the Twitter algorithm. But first, let's try to frame a little bit what happened. First of all, Elon Musk doesn't own Twitter yet. What he got now is an okay from the board of Twitter to actually sell the company to him for the price of $54.20 per share. And there's obviously a reference to weed memes for 420, you know? So the deal can still technically fall through. There's a lot of different things that need to happen before Elon is actually going to own the company. But he already started talking about the kind of things that he wants to do with it. And the most interesting thing, I think, is the fact that he wants to open source the Twitter algorithm. And I think that's a terrible idea. Let me explain why he wants to do it and why I think it's a terrible idea. First of all, he wants to open source the algorithm because he believes that there's not free speech on Twitter. He believes that this algorithm is opaque and sometimes it takes decisions that are a little bit hard to understand, promoting specific viewpoints from maybe certain political groups and maybe turning down or banning other people that have different points of view. And so he thinks that the solution is to make the algorithm open source, which means that this big algorithm that takes all these decisions is going to be published and everybody can read the code and try to understand how it works. But I think he's being a little bit naive. Let me tell you why I think this is a terrible idea. First point, what does he actually mean when he says, I'm going to open source the algorithm? Twitter doesn't have one algorithm. It has tens, hundreds of algorithms. It's a system of algorithms. You may have an algorithm that recommends you new people to follow. You may have an algorithm that recommends what content to see, but you have algorithms that block pornography. You have algorithms that block violent content, like people being slaughtered and we don't want to have this content on Twitter. So what does he actually want to open source? The whole thing? That may be a problem, and I'll tell you why soon, but first I want to tell you a second reason why this doesn't make a lot of sense. AI is what powers all these Twitter orchestra of algorithms, but AI is software plus code. So if you just open source the software, well, people still can't understand how the algorithms work. Let me make a quick example. Let's suppose that you want to understand whether this algorithm is biased towards a political group or another. You read the algorithm and it seems that it's okay. But then you train this algorithm just with data coming from one political group. Obviously, the algorithm is going to be biased. So, if Elon Musk wants to allow people to understand how this algorithm works, he needs to open source both the algorithms, so the software, the code, and the data. But obviously, he cannot open source the entire Twitter database. That would be a huge breach of privacy and a pretty big problem. He will have also to open source private conversation. That's simply not doable. Something he could do, though, is to release pre-trained models. So he takes the algorithms, he takes the data, trains it, and then publishes the output of this training phase. But that will be also destructive. And now I'm going to the third point, and I'm going to bring back the thing that I told you before. There's a lot of different algorithms, and some of them do important things like block pornography. Let's suppose that he open source a trained model. People could decide to use this trained model to understand how to game the system and publish whatever the hell they want. Right now, if I wanted to post some pornography on Twitter, I will have to try different pictures, be banned a lot of times, until at some point I'm finally going to be able to find a picture that is not caught by the Twitter algorithm. But if he open source the whole thing, also a trained model, I can run millions of tests on my own laptop, and whenever I find one of these tests that works, well, that's what I'm going to publish. So there is something called security by obscurity. By not telling people how something works, you make it harder for them to game that system and to do whatever they want. So by open sourcing everything, by telling people how all this technology works, you risk that people are gonna also find it easier to game the system and go against what actually you wanted to protect. So I think this is a bad idea, but I have to say something. This is exciting. It's really interesting to see that he wants to try completely new things. These problems are unsolved in AI and in tech in general. And so I am really curious to see how his new approach is going to play out. I don't think it's going to work, but I wish him the best of luck. I wish that whatever experiment he's going to decide to take with Twitter and with AI is going to be an occasion for the entire AI community and the tech industry in general to learn and get better. Tell me what you think in the comments of this video. A new research will allow transgender men to have babies. Let's try to understand what this means. Transgender men are people who are biologically born as female, but they identify as men. Some trans men undergo testosterone treatment to try to develop more masculine traits, to develop a beard, a deeper voice, etc. But these kind of treatments also inhibits their ovaries from producing eggs that can be fertilized by sperm. So there's a new research at the University of Edinburgh that takes these ovaries from these transsexual men and then it stimulates them so that they can actually produce eggs that can be fertilized by sperm. Then you can use different existing techniques to fertilize them and potentially either insert the fertilized egg in a surrogate or do different kind of things to try to actually get a baby. This hasn't been done yet, but there are already a lot of techniques that are pretty common to try to take a fertilized egg and get a baby out of it. What's really new about this research is the fact that now trans men can use their existing uterus to try to get fertilizable eggs. I can't comment on the application of this technology because as a person that does not suffer from gender dysphoria, I can't really empathize with what these people feel. But what I can do is to talk about some specific aspects of technology in general. I see technology as a tool, as like a hammer, let's say. And the more technology evolves, the more tools we have. It's like if tens of years ago, we just had one hammer inside our toolbox, and now suddenly we have hammers, screwdrivers, chainsaw, and a bunch of different tools that can allow us to do all sorts of things. Years ago, if you were born with gender dysphoria, you had no option to be trapped into the gender that was assigned to you at birth. Then we started having testosterone treatments, but people that went through these treatments lost the ability of having babies. And now they can also have babies. So as you can see, technology is nothing more than a tool that gives us different options to try to solve different problems. Now, if you're a transgender man, I'm really curious to hear your take on this. I'm curious to know how does it feel to finally have this opportunity. And so please comment in the comment section of this video. If you're not a transgender man, I'm also curious to hear your thoughts, but one thing. This is something I have to ask you, and I'm not going to make exceptions. I think that different opinions always bring value, but they have to be shared respectfully. This is my comment section, so I'm going to ask everybody to be respectful and block whoever is not. Again, different ideas, welcome. Disrespectful comments don't have space here. Looking forward to hopefully some interesting conversations in the comment section. Someone hacked the Instagram account of the main NFT project in the world, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and they managed to steal $3 million worth of NFTs from owners of these bored apes. Let's try to understand actually what happened. People hacked this account and then started sending to followers of the account a link to a copycat of the Bored Ape Yacht Club webpage. So people were sent to this website that looked exactly like the real website of Bored Ape Yacht Club. And people were asked to give permission to access their wallet to get an airdrop, so to get free tokens and free goods. This is something that a lot of NFT projects do for real. But whenever people gave access to the wallets, poof, their NFTs were gone. So I want to talk a little bit about what's happening now in crypto, because in the last 38 weeks, there have been 37 major crypto hacks, and I've talked about a lot of them. So I may look like a crypto hater, and I'm not a crypto hater. I may be a crypto skeptic in some cases, but I don't hate crypto. I think it's interesting. The reason why I am telling you about all these hacks is because a lot of times the reason why these things happen is because people are uneducated. They don't know how phishing attacks work. They don't know how all these things can potentially make them lose a lot of money. And so I really want to educate you. I want to help you understand how different malicious people can try to steal your money and steal your NFTs if you want to invest in that specific industry. So in this case, for instance, it's not really an NFT problem. It's a general cybersecurity problem. The people that stole this $3 million worth of Bored Ape did not hack NFTs, did not hack crypto. They used a normal phishing account through Instagram to steal NFTs. So I hope this was interesting. I hope this was helpful, and maybe it's going to protect you at some point. So share this with your friends that invest in crypto or NFTs so that they can know a little bit more about how different phishing attacks can potentially steal a lot of value from them. An AI microwave tried to kill its owner. What does it mean? It's a crazy art project done by Lucas Rizzotto, who is an artist and futurist and crazy hacker. So this is what he did. It was kind of an art experiment. He took a microwave and he managed to give this microwave, by hacking a little bit of its motherboard, access to GPT-3, which is today's most powerful language model. Now, what is a language model? It's an AI algorithm that has understood how language works from huge amounts of text. I'm talking terabytes and terabytes. And what you can do is that you can retrain these models by giving it a lot of text of all the stories that you want the model to learn from. And then you can ask him questions, and this GPT-3 model is going to give you answers. It's going to start conversations with you. So what Lucas Rizzotto did is that he came up with a story, the story of the life of this microwave. He taught this story to GPT-3, and then he started interacting with the systems. The interesting thing, though, is that he built this project in such a way that whenever the GPT-3 model said things like, turn on the microwave will actually turn on. And at some point, while he was having this conversation with this AI, the AI said, hey, open the microwave and come in. And he said, okay, I'm in the microwave. And the microwave turned on. Now, scary, right? But I think it's important to understand actually what happened, because I really don't like when there are these kinds of news that are really just made to make people freak out and think that AI is evil, is going to kill us. What's happening here is that there's a language model, again, so something that learns from different kinds of text that have been created by somebody. Now, if you give text, if you give a story to this language model that has violence in it, that has sad stories, that has homicide, that has, murders and whatever, this is the kind of text that this algorithm is going to spit out. So now if you, the human, decide to build code that whenever the algorithm says turn on a microwave, then the microwave turns on, well, is it an AI problem, or is it you that are trying to get into these situations? They're trying to make GPT-3 say evil things and think about murder by giving it a crazy story, and then you give it the access to the microwave. I think it's more a question for how we can use this technology to build creative things that make us think. That's what this project is. It's an art project. So I don't think that this is a story about AI trying to kill people. I think this is a story about an artist who used AI in a way that could potentially result in some unintended consequences. By design, this project was designed to do things like this. So it's important that you understand it. But there's also something else that I want you to think about. This guy was able to build some pretty freaking advanced technology in his free time to make a YouTube video. This is the level of democratization that AI has reached. Right now, there's so many AI tools that allow everybody, also you, to build potentially really cool AI projects. And I think that has a lot of value. Thank you for watching this episode of This Week in Tech. I hope you find that interesting, and if you did, please share it with your friends. It helps me grow and it helps other people gain all these interesting ideas about technology. I will see you next week. Ciao.